When audiences hear that a movie is based on a true story, they know that they're in for a faithful interpretation of a real subject, right? Well, that would be the case in a perfect world. But the truth is that Hollywood has their own agenda, and sometimes true stories need to be altered in the name of making the best movie possible. For this list, we're taking a look at true story movies that are riddled with inaccuracies. Enjoy this video and let us know what you think. Here are 10 true story movies that are a complete lie.
Break out the shovels! It's time to start digging!
Digging?
Pocahontas. Although she may be the only Disney princess to have ever actually existed, her movie is far from the actual story. Disney loves to talk about how Pocahontas was based on a true story, but in this case, based is a very loose term. The real story is actually much more violent and involves the kidnapping and abuse of a girl much younger than the version of Pocahontas we saw on screen. Even if you look past all the talking trees and animals, the movie is full of misrepresentations of one of the touchiest subjects in modern culture: colonization. Paint with all the colors you want, Pocahontas, but you're not fooling us any longer. Braveheart. There is no denying that Braveheart is a great movie and has been inspiring audiences for decades now. However, to claim that it is the depiction of a true story is not really the case. Braveheart claims to be based on a true story, but there are tons of things that just didn't happen as we see on screen. First of all, Prime Noctis never actually existed. The characters wouldn't have been wearing the famous kilts in that time period, and worst of all, Isabella France never even met William Wallace in real life. The filmmakers have acknowledged that they took some liberties embellishing the story for the big screen, but that is putting it lightly, as the movie is a very loose adaptation of a historic tale. Flight. At this point, if you cast Denzel Washington and slap the words "based on a true story" onto your movie, there's a good chance that people will see it. Although Flight claims to be based on the 2000 Alaska Airlines Flight 261, the only thing it really has in common with the actual story is the fact that they're both about planes crashing. In the movie, Denzel's completely fictional character Whitaker flies the plane upside down to stabilize it before the plane ultimately crashes, somehow killing only 6 people. On the real Alaska Airlines flight, the pilot tried this upside down maneuver but was unsuccessful. On top of that, there wasn't only just 6 casualties from this crash. In fact, everyone on board died. American Sniper. Clint Eastwood's American Sniper is definitely not a stranger to controversy, and just one of the critiques that the movie faced was that it wasn't very historically accurate. Critics have not been shy to point out differences between the real life of Chris Kyle and the way he's portrayed on the movie by Bradley Cooper. One of the biggest changes comes from the way Mustafa, the enemy sniper, is depicted in the film. In reality, he only shows up in Kyle's memoir for 1 paragraph, but the movie uses him as the long-term antagonist. On top of that, Kyle's famous 2,000-yard shot wasn't actually aimed at Mustafa, but Eastwood decided it would make the movie more interesting to pretend that it was. With all the socio-political backlash that this movie received, we're guessing that its historical accuracy isn't their top priority. Argo. Taking home 3 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Ben Affleck's Argo can definitely consider itself a success. What it can't consider itself, though, is a true retelling of a historic event. The movie seriously minimizes Canada's role in the hostage extraction plan, and President Jimmy Carter even called out Argo for making stuff up. According to Carter, about 90% of the work was done by the Canadian team, but the movie spends the majority of its runtime focusing on the action of the CIA. There's no denying that Argo is a great film. It's just not a very factually accurate interpretation. Foxcatcher. Foxcatcher is a well-made movie, and plenty of what appears on screen is accurate. But the filmmakers did mess with the timeline and characters' relationships in order to craft the narrative they were looking for. For instance, the movie shows DuPont getting arrested quickly after the murder, but in real life, he actually hid from the police in his mansion for days before being apprehended. The movie also makes it seem like Dave was only on Team Foxcatcher for a small amount of time before his death, but in reality, he was there for over 7 years. We can understand why the filmmakers made these small changes, but it definitely hurts the legitimacy of the flick. Captain Phillips. Ever want to feel incredibly stressed out for a couple of hours? Then go right ahead and watch the Tom Hanks-led film Captain Phillips. The movie is great and is actually based on the true story of the 2009 hijacking by Somali pirates, and how the vessel's captain saved the lives of his team. Hanks' Captain Phillips is definitely painted as a hero in the film, but according to some crew members from the actual ship, that representation is not accurate. Apparently, Phillips ignored a ton of safety precautions that made it much easier for the pirates to hijack the ship, and in reality, they were actually attacked by 2 different groups of pirates, not just one. The crew members listed Chief Engineer Mike Perry as the real hero of the story, as he was the one that brought the crew downstairs and locked them away. Tom Hanks is probably the most lovable man in the world, so we can understand why they altered the story a bit here. The Fighter. David O. Russell's 2010 biopic of Mickey Ward, The Fighter, was billed as a truthful story, but the movie definitely made some changes to the original subject matter. In the movie, Ward is shown ascending to world champion status thanks to a successful bout with Shane Neary, but in truth, that fight only won him the World Boxing Union Junior Welterweight title. So Mickey Ward was never really recognized as a world championship, as the movie would have viewers believe. The portrayal of the Ward sisters was also a point of controversy, as the real-life women took serious offense to their depiction in the movie. They said the movie didn't do them justice and painted them in a negative light. Now, while that part may be subjective, there's no denying that The Fighter exaggerated Mickey Ward's boxing career in the name of the film. Straight Outta Compton. In 2015, Straight Outta Compton gave the world a great big screen representation of the rise and fall of 80s rap crew NWA. Unfortunately, the movie left out a few key details about the group's members. In real life, Dr. Dre has a bad history of physical and verbal violence towards women, something the movie chose to leave out. Interestingly, some of his incidents were actually included in the original script, but the filmmakers ultimately decided to leave out that aspect of Dr. Dre. It's tough to judge if this was the right call or not, as it would have definitely made the movie more truthful, but likely a lot darker as well. What do you think? The Revenant. 2015's beautifully shot The Revenant landed Leonardo DiCaprio his long-coveted Academy Award. But the film could also probably win an award for being one of the most obsessively fact-checked movies of all time. Leo's Hugh Glass was a real guy who really did survive a bear attack, but that's about where the historical accuracy ends. The real Glass never actually had a son, so the whole plotline about the character seeking vengeance for his son is totally contrived. On top of that, Glass never made it to Fitzgerald, played by Tom Hardy in the movie, and instead ended up giving up and moving on with his life. The cinematic version we got to see was definitely more dramatic, so we can understand why the filmmakers made the alterations they did. And with that, we've made it to the end of our list of true story movies that totally lied to you. Which one of these truth bombs blew your mind the most? What other supposedly accurate films can you shed some light on? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Thanks for watching!